just drove back from the airport, having dropped some people off, and whilst I don't have a dash cam, I have a feeling, if I did, some of the footage that I could get on these runs would do very well to explain the point I want to make in this ramble video. Has anyone heard of the common sense? I'm pretty sure most people have heard of it. Unfortunately, it seems to be in rather short supply these days. So I'm starting to think it should be renamed rare sense. Just to emphasise the fact that not everyone is as sensible as we'd like to think. You see that in all manner of places. On the roads, for example, people tend to be driving at completely different speeds to the conditions that one might think would be safe. Right now I'm driving along the motorway. It's often here that we have interesting things, because whilst the highway code says that people joining a motorway or any fast-moving carriageway from a slip road have to give way to people on the road, have to give priority to people on the road, which is perfectly true. Unfortunately, many people take that to mean that if they're already on the motorway, they don't have to care about people trying to join the motorway. After all, it's their priority, they have the chance to drive on, and they will be in the right should they crash. Someone actually said that. It's a hard thing to remember when you're in your hospital bed, that you're in the right. However, a driving instructor I follow on YouTube by the name of Ashley Neal, he, quite rightly, says, "I have priority" isn't a very good thing to have written on your gravestone. It is a rather questionable epitaph. So, how should one respond if it's not their priority? Is there anything to do? Well, unfortunately, no driving forum actually has any instructions on how to respond to someone joining the motorway. Be they doing it sensibly, or doing it by barging in, or even slowing down to the point where they have to stop on the slip road. Even though there are many forums that would say, don't stop on the slip road. I would say the most sensible thing to do is treat it like any other hazard. Look around you to assess whether you, on the motorway, can reduce the risk for someone coming onto the motorway. Hold back if needs be. But also remember, you need to make progress. There are just as many examples of people failing to give way to people coming onto the motorway as there are people who are on the motorway and try and give way to the people trying to join it, and that causes a pile-up. That, my friends, is common sense going out the window. You may think, oh, common sense to slow down and make it easier for people, or common sense to use the slip road to speed up and join the carriageway. The fact that not many people are doing that shows that it's not actually that common. Another example of common sense having gone out the window is the response many people have to animals. There's been stories of dogs attacking people, or dogs being overexcited around people, going around on the forums, on the social medias, for months now. And I'm not talking about the XL bullies, or any of the other fearsome dog breeds. No, it's any dog. As someone that's owned dogs, I know the most sensible thing to do is to keep calm, carry on, do the job as a delivery driver, because that seems to be where the terror lies for the delivery drivers. Unfortunately, delivery drivers are not known for their common sense, because unfortunately many delivery firms such as Amazon, DPD, Parcel Force or Hermes, they tend to give you so many parcels that you have to throw all the safety advice, all the customer service, all the things to do with getting the parcel there safely out the window just to get the job done. It is somewhat ridiculous, I'll be honest. You see all manner of people driving on the roads these days. Amazon drivers are notorious for having battered vehicles and for doing reckless overtakes. Some might say, oh, they're doing it legally. Legal isn't the same as safe. I mean, technically, double overtakes. I don't think there's anything in the highway code that says double overtakes are illegal. I'll have to double check that and make sure. I'll stick now a snippet onto the end of the video about this. But if that's the case, and there aren't any rules against double overtakes, then Amazon drivers are doing that perfectly legally, but it's incredibly dangerous. The common sense of overtaking, in fact the rules of overtaking are quite simple. Only overtake if you can see twice the distance that you have to travel is clear. Some of on this road I'm driving on now I can see pretty well. I'm not behind anyone, so I'm not going to bother trying to overtake or anything. All the things involving overtaking increase tenfold when you've got another car involved, when you're doing double overtakes, triple overtakes. I've seen some people do quadruple overtakes because they're so impatient. Granted, common understanding of speed implies that it makes a fair bit of difference, but depending on where you are, travelling faster than everyone behind you will just mean you get to the same set of lights at exactly the same time. I'll admit I have the argument that at least when you move off from the lights, you're able to make better progress if they're the ones going slow. But unfortunately, that still leaves us with a few questions of safety. And as Ashley Neal rightly says, it's better to overtake if it's safe, legal, and worthwhile. Because some of the videos of Amazon drivers overtaking don't always fit the first two, let alone the second. And then the third, sorry. So, what about the dogs? What does dogs have to do with Amazon drivers? Well, one video that got flagged up on my feed a while ago was about the endless attacks by dogs on delivery drivers. It's so well known that I remember seeing a sign that clearly made a joke of it. A dog with a tally of different delivery drivers. I think it was Hermes 1, DPD 3, Yodel 7, something like that. So being both an Amazon driver and a dog owner, I've been very aware that dogs could be a problem whilst delivering. But in my experience, I've only had 4 issues with dogs. 2 of them I wouldn't even consider an issue. And the other 2 were more my concern for the dog's safety. Let me explain. I think I have to do it in order. Yes, there was one time I was delivering up in Aberfoyle in the Trossachs. And I was coming up to a farm gate, and I could see, well, I could open the gate, I knew that, but I could also see some dogs wandering around. They weren't going to hurt me, I knew that all too well. I was more worried about whether they would run out and start interfering with me driving down the drive. Because you got to remember, vans, they're high vehicles. You can't always see what's going on beneath your wheels. And certainly, if there's a dog running along beside you, you don't want to have it suddenly be under your wheels. That's a terrifying thought. And if anyone doesn't find that a terrifying thought, then quite frankly, they should not be allowed anywhere near anything on 4 legs. And that includes a toddler. So I called up the customer, told them the situation, and they said, oh, just leave the parcels at the gate. That's what I did. I did have to reverse the van to turn around, but at least I didn't have to worry about the dogs. There were some more dogs that were particularly loud and aggressive looking when I was delivering up. It was near Kinlochard, something like that. That sort of area of the Trossachs. But whilst they were loud, they weren't particularly dangerous. I was happily able to deliver without any problems. I remember there was another time. Oh yeah, again I was delivering in the Trossachs, or somewhere around that area. Maybe Alloa. And there were some dogs milling around whilst I was opening a gate to drive through. Now I had to take it very carefully because, well, if those dogs started to rush at me, they'd be under my wheels. I wasn't afraid for me, no, I was afraid for them. So I duly took my time and carefully made sure I wasn't going to hit them. The only 2 times I even felt vaguely threatened by dogs, well, only 1 time really, was, well, a very good point. But that was more based on the fact that they were very large dogs. One of them was quiet, the other was very vocal. They were Tibetan Mastiffs. No dog breed I've experienced before. Doesn't mean anything, really. But they're a guardian breed, and you need to be aware of that. Fortunately, the owner heard the dog's barks and came and took the parcel, so I didn't even need to approach the gate, let alone enter the dog's property. Because that's what he wanted to do, make sure I wasn't going to come on the property. Perfectly reasonable if you ask me. I think the one time during my whole delivery career, my whole van driving career really, that I ever got even slightly injured by a dog, well technically 2 times. One when I was doing charity bagging, I posted a bag through a door and a dog nipped me on the finger. Just a tiny little nip. Absolutely nothing. My response? I simply got a stick and used that to do my deliveries from then on. Poke my bags through the door using that stick. That's all. Being made one out of steel so it can actually be even more safe. Second time was getting delivering for Amazon. It was a tiny little dog, like a chihuahua, something like that. It scratched my leg. That was it. That was the only time during my Amazon career that I ever felt threatened by a dog. Even mildly. And even then, thought again, just a mild scrape. Nothing. And later that day, someone had to call out because they got bitten by a dog. I personally questioned what they were doing because, well, dogs, they're rarely aggressive out of habit. It's not their nature just to rip someone in half. No, that's a bear. If you go anywhere near its cubs. I always say, if you know what you're doing and you respect the animal, you have nothing to fear. And that could be anything from a horse to a dog, from a bird to a crocodile. It makes no difference. If you don't think you know what you're doing, the best thing to do is respect it and stay well away from it. Someone commented that they are delivery drivers, not dog whisperers. But I think people keep forgetting common sense. You don't need to be a dog whisperer. You don't need to be a horse whisperer to understand what they're doing. You just need to pay attention, that's all. What is the dog doing? Is it standing on the porch barking at you? Or is it rushing at you? One thing I always do when doing deliveries, if I see a dog, is constantly talk to it. Let it know that I'm there. Many people say, oh, the dog won't understand. The dog doesn't need to understand the words. It needs to understand the tone. It needs to know that I'm not going to cause harm. I'm being calm, talking like this. Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, is your owner in? Very well, I shall leave the parcel here. Is there any point coming any closer? No, I'll leave it there then, okay. Oh, is that the boss? Excellent, I'll just wait here, I'll show them the parcel. Good, now they're coming. That's all. It's not I'm talking dog to them, or even Tibetan if needs be, but just a matter of being sensible. Common sense is no longer common. And this sort of thing affects all manner of people. They look at things in a remarkably polarised way. You could say you can blame the internet for that, because common sense things have been overloaded with all manner of ridiculous overload knowledge that people can have the tips of their fingers. And as a result, people don't think they need to learn anything. They don't think they need to understand anything else, because they have everything there. They can simply ask a question, and there's the answer. Not necessarily the answer they want, or the answer that is the most sensible one in the time, but the one that makes them feel better. And unfortunately, that's the algorithms. It's a combination of the internet trumping us with knowledge and our inability to learn through other means. Can this apply to religion? It can. People will say, how will we tell when the Bible is being metaphorical? By understanding the context surrounding it. Context is not just where it's written in the Bible, how it's written, what else is surrounding it in the Bible. It's about the context of the time. For example, could this have been written in a time where, say, camels were more important than horses? What's significant of a mule compared to anything else? And so forth. There's an awful lot more to context than just the fact, oh, it's written there or there. No. You could say it's a matter of the law or a matter of the history surrounding it. To put it in other literacy terms, understanding the Harry Potter books is more than just understanding where things lie in the chapters, or where the chapters line up with each other. It's more about what the law itself establishes. Wand law, for example. People don't really understand that. It's just complicated art. Things explained earlier and later can help explain things, but also just understanding the basics of what was being said. Essentially, one's having minor sentience, so they're able to choose for themselves. I've heard some people even say that Fawkes must be somewhat evil because he's supplied feathers for both Harry's and Voldemort's wands. Only imported in one scene. And also, more importantly, it doesn't have any bearing on wand law itself. Because if it was all down to the Phoenix, then, well, definitely it would have been interesting to see how that would have reacted in the story. So, to sum up, common sense certainly isn't common anymore. People are nowhere near as sensible as they should be. And when we get right down to it, we just need to pay attention to things around us a bit more. You guys know my route. You'll know where I am right now. Stay safe. And God be with you. Just doing the editing for this video and saw that I need to do the addendums. Firstly, with the double overtakes, there's nothing in the highway code expressly forbidding it. Nothing. It does say make sure you can see there's plenty of room to pull in, and don't follow someone around a car. You can't see what's going on ahead. But there's nothing against it legally in the highway code at all. Don't know what it would be like in America. Also, another example of context just being completely ignored in terms of the Bible. Classic ones: people taking Psalms, taking the Songs of Solomon, or Proverbs literally. They're often in the name that tell you. The Psalms, they are poems. The Songs of Solomon, they're literally songs. Proverbs, they are well known to be wise sayings without any literal backing, but they do serve a purpose. So, that is ridiculous. And Christ was also well known for speaking in Proverbs, speaking in parables. So the context of something being applied not literally in biblical teachings was well established in the New Testament, let alone in later years. You want examples of songs that sound like they could be literal but have way more metaphor. Best example of one that's rich with metaphor is Rocky Mountain High by John Denver. One that has very good metaphor but applied to a more literal case, that would be let me think, that would be Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind. Yes. How many times did the cannonball fly before they're forever banned? That's an anti-war song. But what's his answer? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Does that mean literally there's a piece of paper blowing in the wind with the answer written on it? No. It means we don't honestly know. So, it's those sort of things we have to bear in mind with context. And if we're sensible, we will see it.